You're at the Dogs. It's full of sharp punters back in the early 70s when you started, I suppose.
Careful, Si.
Who were the best punters that you ever came across? Who used to put the fear of God into your boss? When they
I don't know, not punters as such. I remember I mentioned Ross earlier on, Ross Jackson. I mean, he was a tremendous bookmaker, but he was also a fearless punter as well. There was a great story one night when he there used to be a competition at Portsmouth called the Golden Muzzle, which was sponsored by Ladbrokes at the time. Now, Ladbrokes had just taken over a local firm in Portsmouth called R&G Racing. I think they had about 24 shops in Portsmouth. You couldn't imagine it now. Plus the shops Ladbrokes had as well. So they had literally 30 shops in Portsmouth and the surrounding areas. We sponsored this race, the Golden Muzzle. They always price it up. There was 3 semi-finals, I remember, one night on a Tuesday, I think it was, and there was all 3 favourites. They weren't, there was nothing crooked about it at all. 3 open races, 3 favourites. I always remember Ross saying the 3 favourites will win tonight. And we've all gone around the shops all day long having little 50 quid trebles, 30 quid trebles, tenner trebles, score trebles. They got to the stage where they wouldn't take any more bets on it. Minimum bet was a 5, maximum bet was a 5 or something. But I do recall that night when Ross kept, every time Ladbrokes even sent a bloke down with cash, and every time he was going into him, he's like, 300 to 2 something, Ross would take it, then go 7 or all. And there was just like, I think there was 3, I think 3 of dogs. I think one would have been like a 2 to 7 shot, I think return like evens. One should have been maybe 4 to 6, I think return like, say, I can't remember, 7 or 4. And the last one would have probably been the big one, would have been like a 5 to 4 shot. I think Ross got it off like 3 or something like that. But tremendous gamble. All 3 had to win. There was nothing, nothing snide about it.
Apart from the prices.
Apart from the prices, obviously, yeah. But all 3 of them had to win still. It was, it wasn't like there was, it was a race worth like £3,000 or £4,000 to the winner. So they were all tried, as it were. But no, I do recall that. That was a great gamble. But no particular punters ever really thought like, I respect him. You see a lot of people now, more so now when I'm working, and I just see punters come through on the ticker and people who are backing certain dogs and certain horses, or mainly horses really. And you certainly respect, where they're coming from, where the money's coming from, and you follow the money there. And I'm sure later on we'll speak about, my low-level punting, but that's certainly where a lot of it comes from, I think, now.
Okay, now, when you were working at the Dogs, things were a little bit more relaxed regarding who you took the bets off. You didn't want their birth certificate. And there was a young lad, tell us about this young lad named Benjamin.
Yeah, young Benjamin, yeah. So I used to work at Hove as well, and I branched out along the A27, and I used to work some of the afternoon meetings at Hove, and I'm sure this young little kid looking like this young, as I kept calling him, a spotty little 13-year-old, 14-year-old, whatever age he was then, as opposed to the spotty little 40-year-old he is now. But I mean, less so now. He's come a long way, Ben. But he'd always come up and you'd have this pest in the afternoon. You'd be 3 to 1 something, and it's like, can I have 3.5 tenors, or it's 4 something? Can I have 5 tenors? And I thought this lad knows the game a bit. Like, he's blagging prices already. He's only just, he's not out of long pants yet, and he's blagging some prices. So just got to befriend him. When it's like when you see people, and you could always tell he was a bit fascinated by the game. And yeah, we just slowly got to know young Ben, as he was called over the years, and his dad Lindsay was always there with him, and he was just, you'd teach him how to clerk and show him how to do this and learn him the fundamentals of tic-tac, and he knew the fundamentals of value because he was he wasn't one to take 11 or 4 on the ball if it was 3 to 1. He was clever enough for that. So he did his maths pretty well anyway. But yeah, that's how I got to know young Mr. Benjamin Keith.
Did he used to win, or did you still get his money even though he got?
I couldn't remember. I think I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he would have been the greatest punter, to be honest. But he's I don't think he would never. He wouldn't. Would he have been a winner or loser? I'm not sure in those days. I mean, but they used to call him. Yeah, they used to call him Benny the Dog. I remember one time because I think his story come from when he worked. I think he might have worked for City Index, and I'm sure if you've interviewed Ben before, I'm sure he'll probably know. But he I seem to recall one day there was they used to do a thing called multi-mutts. So basically they multiply the trap numbers together for the forecast. So say 6 beats 5, it's 30, or vice versa. I think there was one day when apparently someone broke into the track overnight and heavily watered the outside of the track. Then they got involved with the multi-mutts, obviously selling them, and they were on the inside. So I think every race was 1 beat 2, 1 beat 2, 1 beat 2, 2 beat 1. One might beat 3 in somewhere. Usually the spreads, I don't know, it's around 150, 160. I think this made up at about like 30. And I think Ben was on the dog section that day. It might have been City Index, one of the spread firms in the day. But I think he'd done his money, or the firm done their money courtesy of Ben. But he was always known as Benny the Dog to me. So that's where the name's always stuck really since. He's still in my phone now. I think it's Benny the Dog as well.
So what about yourself? Do you punt?
Oh, I do. Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm a ferocious punter, but no, I enjoy a bet. I like to follow money. I must admit, for the horses and stuff like that, I do draw my own opinion as well. I've had a few sort of nice touches down the years. Probably now my main betting would be on the Greyhounds. I love the anti-post betting and betting into anti-post markets in greyhound events. That's probably my main thing I enjoy doing now, and just follow the open race scene on the dogs. A lot of people, punt the graded, and again, the graded dogs are so hard. You've got to specialise on one particular track, I think, for the graded. And like some of the firms now, they price up all the graded dogs in the mornings and stuff like that. And you could write a book about firms, people getting sort of knocked back for bets, and how people sort of try and get bets on the graded dogs. It's very hard, and there's always someone who knows more than you about graded dogs. That's the reason why at Star we've never done it, the graded dogs in the morning. But the open race scene I like to follow quite closely and always keep an eye on. Clearly, obviously, with the Derby that we sponsor, so we enjoy the Derby, and we enjoy looking at all the dogs through the year and getting involved in that. And I've been known to put the odd big price winner up now and again. I think I put up that 50 poke last year, which is like broken clocks are right twice in a day sometimes. So clearly that day the clock was right twice.
Well, you're doing a bit self-depreciating there, because you're not a stranger to being in front of a camera giving out your advice, which you do on a regular basis. So are you like one of these? Do you go around to Jerry's house and watch the videos, or are you, would you do any sort of serious studying like that, or do you just remember?
Oh, I do watch videos back. Yeah, I mean, I'll get the videos of all the opens and watch them back. You can, then they're usually there pretty much for the, the general public now on the Racing Post website. I do tend to record them sometimes as well and watch them back too. So yeah, I certainly keep all the opens up to date and keep my eye and keep me, my eye on all that sort of stuff. And you occasionally see the same dogs and bits and pieces. Like we say, like Jerry said before, some people see more than others. Jerry says he sees things that other people don't see with his X-ray eyes. But Jerry would be a much better judge than me. And I'm sure Jerry's sitting there going, lofty or nudie, so that. But like, I've never meant to be a pro gambler. I've never made a living out of it. If I had to make a living out of being a professional punter, I wouldn't be the size I am now, I don't think. But
so, what's your most memorable day at the races? That could be for any reason, whether you back the winner or just a bloody good atmosphere. Anything that sticks out?
I don't know, really. No, quite a few. I've enjoyed a few of the big days at Cheltenham when I've been there. I love being at Cheltenham at the festival. You always remember winning days, don't you? I mean, my good friend John Ireson, who works out in Gibraltar now, will mention on Twitter that I bet Harmonic Way that won the Stewards Cup at 16-1. I had quite a decent bet on that, and that was a real good day. And I seem to recall the Friday before, a good friend of mine put me on a winner as well. I think it was 16-1 in my last race. So I seem to recall those 2 days pretty well, actually, the Friday and Saturday at Goodwood. That would have been a good few years back now, but I think that's been a good few years back now until I was back in winners. I bet they had a decent, nice couple of Greyhound Derby nights sticking in mind. The second one at Toaster, I thought, was a really good night. Again, big help back in the winner there to vote as well. Cat anti-post at 33-1, and of course for Kevin Hutton, I've had a few dogs with, who's down the years, who's a real nice fella, and obviously had a lot going on at the time when he had the dogs thief from the kennel and they were missing, and yeah, that was a really good night as well, and quite emotional really. But I really enjoyed that night at Toaster. The derbies at Toaster have been really good actually, I must admit. I thoroughly enjoyed all 3 Greyhound derbies we've had at Toaster so far. That we've obviously Star been involved with sponsoring as well.
And of course, you've got to mention you've absolutely got Arabian racing by the gonads.
That's the only thing you say. Yeah, every time it's going to go wrong one day. So you're going to know. See you one day over at Goodwood. I keep seeing that photograph of the on Arc Day when I think it was 66, 33, and 50. I only imagine making a book at Longshop. I'd have done my absolute orchestras that day, or the firm that did anyway. But yeah, so far it always pays for the tie, as you say in the evening, whether it's the meal or the different tie. I'm not entirely sure.
Now you've travelled to Ireland for both dogs and horses. I mean, how does it differ over there to here?
I love Ireland, to be fair. It's just a different way of life altogether over there, and the atmosphere is different. The racetracks have got a different atmosphere about them, I think, altogether as well. The bookmaking tends to be a bit more, should we say, relaxed over in Ireland, but a lot of people seem to know everybody, and it's a case of, someone knows someone who knows somebody in Ireland who's got a horse, and I think it's that slightly smaller pool where there's less horses and things like that. But I just enjoy the atmosphere going racing in Ireland a few times. You've obviously been there yourself, and you've been over to our pitch at the Curragh, which I've not been allowed on yet. But it's, I've been in the Curragh myself, thought it's redeveloped, and again, enjoyed the racing there. The Greyhounds in Ireland, I mean, Shelbourne Park is, in my opinion, the best greyhound track in the world, and I love going there for the Greyhound Derby finals over there. The atmosphere is absolutely tremendous as well, and you get a lot of British people going over there and enjoying it. The day-to-day Irish racing too, it's just a lot more on a smaller scale. It's a lot of owner trainers and, one man and his dog turning up at the track sort of thing. Big difference I find in Ireland, and I think it's a great difference, is basically you can run a dog when you want to run it and not when somebody else wants to run it. A few people have been with the dogs over here. I think Graham Holland, who was well, he's champion trainer in Ireland now. He's obviously got a lot of good dogs, and you know, he left England to go to Ireland, and that one of his main reasons was that you could run a dog at Ireland when you wanted to run a dog, and not when they told you to run a dog at a track. So you know, being in charge of your own destiny, I think, with the greyhounds in Ireland is a lot better than some of the times over here at the moment. And again, I'm sure we'll come on to the greyhound racing situation in the UK later on. But yeah, I think the Irish have got it right so far.
Right, yeah, we're going to talk about dogs. I mean, you've owned dogs, shares in dogs, right?
A couple outright, mostly in shares, yeah, mostly shares.
And do you think it's value for money?
It's fun. I think now with a dog, would you wouldn't say to anybody now to own a graded dog in this country, because for as much as it might say, you know, Mr. M. Chapman on the race cards, once that dog grades onto the track, once it's in, you don't own that dog. The dog's owned by the track. The dog's owned by the racing manager. It runs when they want it to run, not when you want it to run. And that's a big difference, I think, now with having dogs. I just think to myself, there's not a lot of incentive now to have a greyhound that's a grader that's running at 8:15 in the morning. You can't. The days of going to the track and having a few mates around, and having a dog and having a social night at the track are long gone, because invariably a dog will be running at like 2 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, which is, or worse still, it could be running at like 8:10 in the morning at some track. So I think eventually that's going to be, I'll say we're going to come onto the health of ground racing later on, but at the moment having a graded dog, I think there's absolutely zero incentive. Open race is a little bit different, but again, the money for them at the moment is ridiculous, and in comparison to the prize money you can win, it's getting a bit like national hunt racing to me, really. People to pay sort of like 300-400 grand for an Irish point to point, and it's beaten basically 3 horses around a field in Ireland, and then they go and run it for 3 grand in a Chepstow novice hurdle. It's that same sort of thing, and people are still pay 20-25 grand for dogs and then running for 200 quid. So you did the math. A lot of it is I think a bit of kudos now, and a few owners are like that, but you can understand why owners are leaving the game in their droves.
But if after listening to all that, I really do want a share in a dog, what would be the best way of going about it? Which angle would you go in at?
Oh, I think with a syndicate, just get a youngster, get a pup. To be fair, I've got a couple of pups at the moment. I don't think you don't know what you're going to get really. It's all part of the fun, and I think for a lesser outlay, you can buy a pup at for say £1,000 and bring him through to racing age. You're talking maybe 2 or 3 grand to get him through to like 18 months to when he starts racing, but. If that's between like 5 of you, it's not a great outlay over the course of whatever, and just go from there, really. I think that's probably the best idea at the moment. But there's a little bit of a... If you can guarantee a dog to run on a Friday and Saturday night, you're lucky. But at the moment, as you say, ground racing wouldn't be the greatest of... owning a graded dog, certainly to me, wouldn't be the greatest of incentives.
Okay, now... Rich Hassel said he's going to be great talking to Lofties, but don't let him go moaning and groaning. So we'll put the moaning and groaning at the end of this part. How healthy is greyhound racing at the moment? And you got the maximum of 2 minutes.
There's a lot of bickering in greyhound racing at the moment. A lot of people with agendas. People just don't seem to get on. It could be one big happy family greyhound racing. It's not. I'm not saying it's quite on life support yet, but it's certainly in intensive care. Now, I'm not trying to be a soothsayer there. And deep into it, you can still see the crowds that turn up at Romford on a Friday or a Saturday night. You can go to Crayford on a Saturday night and literally you can't move downstairs. So people still want to go ground racing because the tracks are still mobbed on a Friday and Saturday night. Look, betting shops have taken it over. A lot of people, they sell the pictures overseas, and hence they want to run races at sort of 9 o'clock in the morning. Maybe for that health's good for the sport. When the money's coming in, the money's coming through to the bookmakers. But is it getting through to the grassroots level at ground racing? It's not really, because dogs are running for 100 quid in the morning, 50 quid run money, and a lot of them are just owned by the trainers now and just churning over, and it's fodder, if I want to use, that's a horrible word to use, but a lot of the stuff in the morning is really that. But, the sport could get a shot in the arm. It could certainly be made a lot more attractive and get people there in the evenings and get people out to still watch the racing.
How?
But they still come. That's the difference. People saying, does a sport need a Barry Hearn? Does a sport need a magician to get it out? It needs to be marketed better, I think, sometimes. But the fact people can still go to tracks in the evening without really too much marketing. A lot of tracks, do. Romford are very good at getting locals in, and they spent a lot of money doing the other side up. They can get people in there. So it just needs a bit better marketing, I think, the track. To be honest, the game. To be honest.